Hello, and welcome to another episode of MiCannaPulse, episode 6. We're happy to be back with you again, joined with Harry Barish. Harry, how you doing today?
Long time, my friend. How the heck are you?
Doing well, doing well. Man, episode 6, here it is. So we're
Yeah,
we're we're
yeah.
moving along.
Yes, sir. I don't know how some of those podcasts did it, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of uh, of podcasts, and some, now there's some pretty cool ones that are out there that are, have hundreds of thousands of followers. So, hats off to those guys that are, making an impact. So it's definitely a interesting side of the puzzle here, but I think a very, necessary side. So, we are definitely learning as we go, starting off, with a low budget, no, minimal budget, and background changes every week, and we're getting there one episode at a time. But it's fun, watching the growth.
Oh, creating a platform is what's important, and creating a platform that generates content that people are not only interested in but invested in. And in the Michigan cannabis industry, we see people invested in so many different areas, and it's such a burgeoning industry that staying on top of the latest news, the latest trends, what's going on not only in Michigan and what's going on in other states, what's working in Michigan, what's not. I think those conversations is what makes the platform usable for folks, and we want them to be able to gain information and not only take our word for it, but have them go and do their own research and see how it affects their businesses and their brands. And I think as long as we're able to kind of provoke some of those questions and thoughts from people, I think that's a job well done at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically repeating what we're already posting in the group, but we're just obviously trying to dive into these issues a little bit deeper, and um, discuss them, whether it's just you and I, whether it's our guest. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start with all the nutty, stories that are currently taking place in this industry, and not just in this market here, as you mentioned. It's going on everywhere. It's bigger picture. Even the bigger picture national issues, and you know failures and successes in the industry. It's it's a massive universe. One thing that is not successful for sure is, as reported recently in multiple sources. Really, the article from New Cannabis Ventures indicated the latest numbers in from January, which are substantially down from last year, and could be a combination of things. Could be um, people that stocked up in December, and which obviously they didn't need to purchase as much in January. Could be the retail industry already being very slow in January and now February, which is also traditionally slow in the industry. Things usually start kind of picking back up right around now, for people to start planning on 420 week or 420 month, whatever you want to call it. You got to kind of extend it out as long as you can, because it's you don't want to just make it a 1 day or 2 day event. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the January numbers come out. And it seems like, I believe this is the second year in a row that our numbers have gone down in January. So interesting trends happening.
Well, for sure. And I mean, with the advent of the new 24% tax, we know people were stocking up prior to January 1. We weren't sure necessarily how quickly that inventory would be gone through, but it does certainly seem like those conversations that we had about how it could impact numbers January, February, going into March, even into April, uh, seem to be right on cue. And I believe it was 15.9% was the statistic that we saw.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean
Um,
that's significant.
yeah, it sure is. It was posted earlier today in the Facebook group, and quite a few interesting points that were made, in that post. Um, you know, so it's it's real. There's going to be even more of a oversupply now if we're consuming less and retailers are selling less. So, uh, you
When
know,
we look at states like Michigan, though, how fortunate we are to look at states like Florida, who true it was a true leave. They had put, I think I had read almost $140 million into getting recreational cannabis onto their ballot, which appears to have to be a constitutional amendment, which requires 60%. And they were not able for a second year in a row, I believe, to achieve that. So the voters will not get the chance to vote on that again. So when we look at how states such as Florida and other states that are trying to, Wisconsin, to where they can't even get it in front of the people. We are fortunate in Michigan. However, it's not as
business
robust as it
friendly.
was business friendly or even robust. When we talk about business, I mean, at the end of the day, it goes down to the consumer. I mean,
Yeah,
consumer
absolutely. Yeah,
choice.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's the laws here are not. Haven't done this industry any favors with the no cap licensing market. But it really, I think it really goes beyond that. I had a conversation earlier this week with a gentleman, who made a valid point, and a lot of our prices really are dictated by um, the non-licensed market, not just these illegal grows that you hear about that you saw recently, 11,000 plants, but also all the MCT oil that's still being used, I believe, and quite a bit of it probably, I believe. Um, and when you have that happening on the scale that you probably are having it, that doesn't matter how many licenses you have. Doesn't matter how few or how many. When that type of activity is taking place on that scale, that changes the whole game, and that can happen anywhere. So you know the whole country is vulnerable to the same issues that take place here. Even if we had rules that said, hey, these are as many licenses we're going to issue, and we're going to have a cap, and we're going to let the producers and manufacturers make money, a little bit more money, and then the industry will sort itself out. And usually it has a way of doing that. Whether it's here, whether it's California, whether it's Oklahoma. Well, there's some states that want to completely remove cannabis completely and just go back to the black market, and then because what's going to happen then? More people are going to go to jail. And now we're going backwards in more than one way, and it's just a vicious cycle, my
Well, when
friend.
we talk about legalization too, we like you said, we recently saw 11,000 plants, and if I had to guess, a majority of that is headed out of state, right, to other places, Indiana, Wisconsin, wherever it may end up. But there's the common argument when you sit when those types of operations get shut down and people get arrested and the initial it's like we legalized it, how could we be doing this? But the reality is we have a law on the book and the people voted for the law and we have a regulated system set up. And when that isn't followed, it diminishes the legitimate business owners who are working hard to maintain compliance, regulatory, and within the law. So I don't think it's fair to just say we should have a free for all, because that's not what we voted for and that's not the law. At the same token, we certainly don't want to see the basement grower who's growing a few extra plants go to jail. I mean, there has to be a common sense approach to the conversation, and it's getting better. I think we have a long way to go. Certainly, we don't want to see anybody go to jail for a plant, but the reality is there are large operations who are funded by organizations we don't want in Michigan, and a lot of that product isn't even staying in Michigan, and it invites federal oversight. It invites all kind of nastiness that we don't want to see. So I think that as the market matures, even though the numbers are down, we're still headed in the right direction, and hopefully the other states that are trying to get this on the ballot in front of their consumers, hopefully that happens.
Yeah, so a couple things happening here in the on the event side of things. The interchange is coming to town on the 25th and 26th of March. We will be there set up. We will probably have try and do an interview. We'll see if we can some interviews on site. So that would be great if we could. But we'll definitely be participating. We look forward to that event and how they bring that back um, after taking a couple years off. And then, May 14th, we have Me Connect Buff coming up. And man, I tell you, this has been unlike anything we've ever seen in terms of the level of interest. We are proud to have secured All Star Brands slash Jars as our presenting partner. Dutchy has recently signed on as our platinum partner. We went, we're pretty much sold in the premium locations, and we have a lot of things going on right now. This is definitely going to be by far, our biggest and best event to date. So we're pretty stoked about what we have coming up, and hopefully we'll be able to share a time and place for a west side of the state event that we're also thinking about doing. So that's also next on our calendar. But yeah, so that's what's happening in the world of events.
Keeps getting better and better.
Yeah,
Every iteration has gotten significantly not only larger, but I think the branding behind it as well. People know it's something they can get on board with, and it's gonna help their brands. It's gonna help their businesses. It allows for a lot of that networking that's difficult to do, right? It's difficult for, especially in the state of the industry and the economy. It's tough to get people in one room who have all of these things in common and be able to network and become friends and build relationships, because that's what this whole thing is based off of, is relationships, right?
yeah. I mean, it's about putting a name with a face. It's about um, knocking out 100 emails in one day. Just by running into people and getting new business. Obviously, that's and that's at the core of this thing. Is this is a networking event. It is a buyer seller focused event, and we are definitely focused heavily on giving introducing both sides to each other with the hopes of getting product on shelves. So on shelves. So um, you know the more people there, the more people hopefully that people will meet, and well, we've got a couple cool things up our sleeve that we're not ready to announce yet, but as far as this next event goes, so yeah, we're pretty stoked.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So with all that being said, I think we have a really interesting guest today.
yeah, yeah.
One that knows the justice system and how fortunate we are to be able to have a regulated system.
I'm excited to introduce our guest today. We have a very special guest, my friend Rick Wershe Jr. a Detroit native whose life story spans one of the most controversial chapters of the city's history. Today, he has channeled his past experiences into legitimate success with Michigan's legal cannabis industry, using his platform to advocate for second chances, equitable access, and reform for those disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. His journey from incarceration to entrepreneurship reflects both personal redemption and the evolving landscape of cannabis legalization in Michigan.
The first partner we would like to highlight today is our wonderful friends and partners over at Community Choice Credit Union, who have proudly served Michigan since 1935. Their mission is to help neighbors achieve financial success through affordable, accessible solutions, whether you're opening your first account or planning for retirement. Community Choice is committed to serving the Michigan cannabis industry in many different aspects, including providing banking solutions and loans for commercial or personal use. For the last 6 years, Donna Bashi, Vice President of Business Development, who is a legend in the Michigan cannabis banking circles, has led their cannabis business program. They serve over 600 cannabis companies in the state of Michigan and have 25 locations to serve their growing customer base. Thank you, Community Choice Credit Union. Our next sponsor is where our very own Harry Barish practices cannabis brokerage, C3 Commercial Real Estate. In a fast-paced and evolving cannabis real estate market, staying ahead requires more than just tracking market trends and utilizing data analytics. It requires a unique combination of agility, creativity, and foresight. At C3 Commercial Real Estate, they possess these qualities and more, offering a comprehensive range of real estate services to help you enhance the value of your investment and business portfolio. With their in-depth understanding of financial and geographic markets, and their ability to decipher the socioeconomic and political factors that shape them, they ensure that you are well prepared to overcome industry challenges and seize new opportunities. Thank you, C3 Commercial Real Estate.
I know you have a bunch of stuff going on that we can't wait to hear about. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down with us and share your story. Rick, you and I met back in 2021 at a Cannabis M Live event where you were interviewed, and I'm blessed that we still connect as much as we do. Always good to see you, brother.
Always good to see you, Harry.
Appreciate you, man. So, Rick, tell us about your journey into the licensed cannabis industry. When you got into it, and kind of what inspired you to get into it.
Well, I got into it as soon as I got off parole. So right around when I met you, I jumped in 21. The whole time that I was on parole, I had been, you know, talking to people, discussing what I wanted to do, kind of like, for lack of a better word, like building the brand without building it. Like we started looking at, logos and this and that, and just building the brand around, my past. And a lot of people, I'm very proud of what we've built. And the eighth, a lot of people don't know what it is. Like it's on my license plate, and people think it's like a reference to drugs, and it's not. It's your Eighth Amendment, which I wish more people knew what it was. I mean, everybody knows the first, the second, the fifth. You should know. It's a very important part of our history, and it's a very important part. You know, the ban on cruel and unusual punishment affects a lot of people in our country.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So, where are you guys? I know you spend a lot of time in Miami. Where are you guys operating out of in Michigan? And tell us about some of your partners and what side of the industry you guys are on exactly. I know you have your hands in several different things.
We're out of Warren, Michigan. We have our own processing center now. So excited about that. Excited about what
Congratulations.
we're creating over there. We have a huge piece of property where we'll be able to throw some events. We're working on a huge man
Event.
cave. So can you hear
Well,
me good?
yeah, yeah. Those sound like amazing things to me. Events and man cave. Count me in. All
Oh
right.
yeah. Hopefully we can have a Meat Puff Connect event there.
Oh man, yeah.
It's a huge space, and
Yeah.
we're very excited. I mean, they're in the process now of doing some overly done renovations that we didn't need, but it's always good to see that come to life and see how things change. You actually, I think in the offices you could live in there, so it's pretty
Nice,
cool.
nice.
Rick, I have a question for you. You had mentioned having this idea when you were on parole, having this idea of a brand and logos and this important message that you wanted to communicate through the industry. Now that you are in it and you've done it for a while, do you feel that your expectations of what you had visualized had been met, or do you feel like certain barriers in the industry, be it whatever it is, license caps or any other economic issues, that maybe didn't meet your expectations?
I would say for me, I never say that I met my expectations because I'm a hustler. So every year and every month we want to grow the brand and we're doing an amazing job. Are there some barriers? Yeah, we have politicians in our state that, you know, we have a thriving industry and I think they're hurting our industry more than helping it. This 24% tax, I don't think our governor really realized what she was doing when she put that tax back on there. What you're going to do is you're going to cause people to buy weed, in the unlicensed market. And you can't blame them with a 24% tax added. Like, we just have, for lack of a better statement, our state is run very poorly. I'm very disappointed in our governor. She's done a lot of good things, but I think this is a somewhat crippling effect to our industry. And a lot of people are looking to go out of state. Do I think we'll hit $3 billion again this year? No, I don't. So she'll lose revenue from that.
And not a single road is going to get fixed, because I think I hit about 200 potholes just today alone. So,
My son hit a pothole so hard the other day, it broke his rim in half and broke his radio.
Jeez.
So, like, you could tell me you're working on the roads or you're working on this. What happens to all the lottery money that we're supposed to fix the roads? What happens to the taxes that we take from cannabis to fix our roads? Like, everybody always says, oh, we're going to use it for this, but the money never goes where they say it's going to go.
and we could never see where it goes as
No,
the taxpayer, right?
there's no transparency.
I agree
No,
with you
no. I
100%.
mean, yeah. I mean, we know that a lot of it is being misused and continues to be misused, and our tech. We're all paying for it. Cost of living's going up. Cost of material, everything's going up, and the price of cannabis is, at an
Going down.
all-time low.
Yeah.
So, I give everybody credit who's hanging in there and grinding this out, and the ones that have um, been doing it for a while, I believe, are the ones for the most part that are gonna can be able to stick around. So you guys are no rookies anymore. You guys are veterans in this industry. I feel like this industry is like dog years, right? For every year you're in this industry is like 7 years. So you guys have kind of established yourselves now, and what are your plans? Where do you think you go from here at this point with all these factors going on? Are you entertaining maybe expanding
Oh, yeah. We're
product lines in
expanding.
Michigan or other states, New
Yeah,
Jersey?
we'll be in New Jersey hopefully within 60 days. We'll launch in
And
New Jersey. Uh, we're looking at Minnesota. We're looking at New York. Definitely, I think these new markets have looked at our state and learned from it, and I think they're just, they're so much better. I've got to travel to these states and talk to these operators, and I think they looked at Michigan and they used us for what not to do in cannabis. And the one thing I wanted to say, Anton brought up, I don't think any of the politicians in Michigan realize the good that we do through cannabis. Like, I would challenge any other industry to show me that they give back more than cannabis. And I don't think there is one. Not in Michigan. Like, it's sad to me when you look at it that the politicians don't recognize the good that we do. And Every year we donate a lot of money to Love for a Child. For the last 5 years, we're well over six figures, which is a summer camp for foster kids. Couple years ago, we gave every kid in the youth home a pair of Air Force Ones in Macomb County. One of the guys that worked there said, Rick, I've worked here 27 years and no one's ever done this. The Juvenile Restorative Rights Program through Team Wellness in Detroit, we're able to give those kids something every year at the holidays. Like, all this is possible through cannabis. And can we do other things? Yes, we can. But the people aren't as generous. People in cannabis are very generous.
Yeah, I mean, not just do these municipalities force these things on you, um, and the state with all that you have to do to get into the industry, the licensing fees and the renewals and things like that. But there are things that most of these operators do above that they don't necessarily have to do. So yeah, you are absolutely right. Like we give more than most, and um, we're not getting the love that we deserve, and it's kind of frustrating, and uh, that we have one more thing that we have to battle that we shouldn't have to anymore. Uh, so it's
My brand and my partner's brand, Harry, we're very focus driven on giving back. And that's what I love about our whole team. Everybody supports me, whether it's, the retailers when I reach out. The, I can't honestly tell you, not one retailer has ever told me no when I call and say, hey, I'm raising money for this or for this. They always give it to us. I was fortunate enough now to start my own 501c so they can get a write off. But before that, they would just give me a check or cash and we would go do what we do.
Is that vision expanded? Like, have you been able to, like you've mentioned several different projects that you've been involved with. Do you, as you go into different states, do you see that level of giving back is that staying the same or being able to give more? I mean, just in several different states now, or is
No, we're definitely, well, any state that we get into, we're all about giving back. And even in Florida now, we started working a little bit with Camilla's house and doing some clothing drives and stuff like that. So we're just going to grow in our giving back and my 501c and the brand in general. We're thinking outside of cannabis and the brand as a whole is taking on other ventures, and we're just going to continue to grow and continue to give back.
that's amazing. Do you see social equity was always something that was a part of our law? That was kind of this a spirit that we voted on, was to make sure that this was an equitable industry. Do you see the equity? In my personal opinion, I see a lot of the equity coming from within the industry, not necessarily from outside of, because they're taking care of their own. Uh, do you see that in other states as well? Like, is equity, social equity, as big of a topic, or what are your thoughts on how it's being approached in other states?
Listen, social equity is a great thing. That for them to recognize what people went through and try and make up for it, which you can never make up for it, but they're trying. The only problem I have with social equity is if you really want to give somebody something, give it to them. Don't give them something and say, oh, you need X amount of dollars. Give them a loan or give them something to get started through the state and put a lien on their license or something. But most of these guys that get the social equity license, they deserve it, but they don't have the startup money. So in a nutshell, it's kind of fake.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to it, right? They got to run a business or understand kind of somewhat how to run a business or be involved in the business, and raise capital, and understand how to run day-to-day operations. And that's not something that a lot of these people are might not be equipped at. So um, it's as much as I think, there deserves to be more social equity and social justice, I don't know that, anyone's gotten it right in terms of, the proper equity and the proper, justice.
I
Um,
think that's a fair statement.
yeah.
I
So
don't think any state has gotten it right.
yeah, absolutely. So what do you, you know, what do you think? What was the turning point for you after your release, where you felt like your story stopped being a stigma and started opening doors for you?
Uh, I think right away, Harry, when I came home, I was greeted with a different, reception. I didn't know what it would be, but everybody was very supportive, very caring. Uh, I don't think anybody does, thinks that a juvenile deserved over 30 years for a nonviolent drug crime when we have rapists and child molesters and murderers doing far less. So, I think they've kind of balanced that out now. You have to understand what I got a mandatory life sentence for. Now, my guidelines for that same crime would be probation to 3 years. So the laws have changed dramatically. I wish I could go back and get that time. I can't. Nobody can. The one thing that, the most valuable commodity in the world is time.
It's a tough
So,
lesson to learn that. I think that's a lesson that unfortunately you learned the hard way. Myself, I'm a veteran, so I think being over in Iraq and in combat, so I have a different perspective as well. But we all kind of meet at the end of the day of how precious time is. When I gauge wealth, I don't gauge it in dollars. I gauge it in time and the
yeah,
memories
I,
that you
I
make.
mean, if you can ask the wealthiest, go ask Warren Buffett what he would give to have his youth back. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, your health is your wealth, and use your time wisely because it's irreplaceable.
What did being in prison, teach you that actually helped you survive and succeed on the on the outside?
Patience, one, and my time in prison, I used a little differently. I read a lot. I tried to use it wisely. You don't always make the right choices in there, but I did try to use it in a positive way. I called it peaks and valleys in there, and I tried to have more peaks than valleys because it's a very lonely place, and you feel alone. And to be honest with you, there's no such thing as rehabilitation. That has to come from within. They don't care. You're a number, and they warehouse you, and they could care less about you.
Do you ever think about how many people are still locked up, you know, for cannabis, and how, and things that you did, and how do you sit with that reality?
I think it's an injustice that anybody in our country should be locked up for cannabis.
Now, does
We
that
tax
mean
cannabis. We tax cannabis. Uh, Nobody's locked up for liquor. Cannabis is far less dangerous than liquor. And I think that anybody sitting in a prison cell for cannabis to this day, I think our government's failing.
now does that mean somebody just got popped with 11,000 plants in multiple warehouses? Are you talking about those people too? Or are you talking about somebody who's got
I'm talking about the people that have already served, a lot of time or a decent amount of time. I don't know the whole story. You know, Caregivers were licensed and this and whatever those plants were. Again, let's thank our governor because that's where she's going to push this market to. So, it 24% is a lot to pull off in a legal industry. Some people's margins aren't 24% here.
absolutely?
So to do that to an industry, I it's sad to me. And again, like when we're talking, I just don't think that there's any danger that comes from cannabis outside of the licensed industry either. That's my opinion. People won't agree with me, but at the end of the day, it's a plant that comes from the earth, and there's far worse things to worry about than cannabis on the street.
100%. Do you see and the regulated side, we are lucky that we can have things such as testing and some sort of regulation. We've seen a lot of conversion oil and things that were not regulated kind of sneak into the regulated market. Are you a proponent of how we go about testing and making sure products are safe for consumers in Michigan?
Absolutely. I think, listen, I believe in testing. I believe, that we have to give the consumers a very safe product. So for me, again, there's other people that, if they could save. We were in a meeting the other day, and some of my partners said nobody cares about $2. Nobody in that room cared about $2 because, being honest, none of us are normal. But $2 means a lot, or $5 to a consumer that works their ass off for $20 an hour. $5 means a lot. And I think some of those people you're pushing to the gray market to go buy $20 worth of weed.
100%. Yep. I think with hemp too, that was another issue that we've had that's been pretty predominant now with the whole hemp conversion process, and they're kind of cracking down on that now. But at the end of the day, the consumers, when we see the prices drop the way they did, and consumers going either to the gray market or for a long time just the license market prior to this 24% tax, I think there was a lot of safety nets that we thought we had in place that weren't necessarily a reality because of whatever regulatory barriers people were having. But brands such as yourself, what you're saying, you're processing, you're testing, you're working with reputable retailers is exactly what we voted for, and I think that's exactly what the consumers want.
And listen, it is what the consumers want, and our goal is to give them, an overly safe product. We want our test results to come back better than the state requires. That's our goal. So if we see anything outside of that, we won't take it or we won't put it on shelves. But that's us. I mean, it's just, this industry is becoming harder and harder for me and some of my friends. And it's because of our politicians that didn't get it right in Michigan.
If the people writing cannabis laws were sitting right across from you right now, what truth do they need to hear and probably won't like?
The truth that they need to hear is that our industry to Michigan is far more important, I think, than any other industry. You look at Monroe, Michigan. Monroe was basically a blight city, a blight town, and cannabis brought it back. And there's beautiful buildings, and it's thriving, and it creates jobs. And I just think that we need to be looked at like any other industry, and we need to be given the same benefits as any other industry, the same write-offs, the same, respect. Cannabis isn't going anywhere. We're, it's, if you really look at the good that cannabis does, I think they should say shame on themselves for trying to hurt our industry. And I would urge them, to reconsider. We'll have a new governor soon, and I've talked to a few of the candidates, and they say that they'll repeal this 24% because they know how harmful it is to this, community in which we're creating $3 billion a year in taxes
Sales, yes,
and sales.
yeah. So obviously, we've been talking about mostly cannabis. You spend a lot of time in Florida. You got a lot of things going on. Cannabis is far from what defines you these days. Tell us about what you currently have going on, including the new documentary project with Hype Williams.
I was fortunate enough to meet Hype probably over a year ago through Scott Storch, a big record producer, and we kind of hit it off. He reached out to me. I helped him a little bit with a Busta Rhymes Maluma video, which was very exciting. And he said, "Hey, let me finish this documentary that you've been working on." And what better person than Hype Williams? I mean, I don't know if people know Hype's history, but if you read up on him and look at his history, this is an icon that I believe in and I trust, and I never thought that one day I would have the opportunity to work with, and I call him my friend as well. So
When do you think it's going to be coming out?
we're shooting we're shooting for the project to be finished in June.
Okay. And what is it going to be
We
on
do not know
YouTube? Is it
what
gonna
platform yet that it would be released on, but we're just working on getting it finished.
great?
Do you feel being a part of a project like that is allowing you to make sure like your story is told in a way that you feel is accurate and is
Absolutely.
inspirational to others? I feel is how your story is.
Absolutely. I didn't have any control of the other two projects. The movie I've never watched to this day. Uh, Boo Curry is my brother, my friend to this day. We work together. We hang out together. So there's a lot of discrepancies in the movie that'll be set correct in this.
You spent 3 decades in prison plus the time out of prison. Tell us how much it taught you about faith and how much it plays a role in your life today.
Faith is a big part of my life. I believe in God. I wore this chain for many, many years through prison, and I wear it every day. Even now, thank God for another day. We just lost a dear friend of ours down here. He was visiting from Michigan. He had a heart attack down here. So one thing I don't do, I don't take life for granted. I don't take my freedom for granted. I don't take life for granted. Tomorrow's not promised to any of us. So I kind of live my life like that. I do. I lost so much time in my life that now I might not make the best decisions financially or whatever, but I do whatever I want to do.
And you're having fun, and you're like you said,
Yeah,
you're
I
thankful.
literally I live my life to what are you doing today? Whatever I want.
That is the American dream right there. I would argue that is freedom. That is, and that's
Well,
something
you
It
not most
deserved it
is.
and you earned it, and you paid to have it, right? And I wish you nothing but the best. God bless you and your journey. I look forward to continuing working together on stuff, and look forward to having you at the at MiCannaPulse coming up in May, along with all the boys, and I can't wait for your pad to be completed.
Yeah. I
And
can't wait for you to see
yeah,
it, and I can't wait. You guys have done, watching you grow over the years since I came home here. The Meat Puff Connect has, grown every year. It's turned out to an amazing event that people talk about far before it's come out. So you should give yourself a pat on the back. You guys are doing an amazing job
appreciate you,
for our
man.
industry.
Thank you for your support and your friendship.
I'm always going to support. You know that.
Thank you,
You're
brother.
my brother.
All right, man.
look forward to
God
burning
bless
one
you.
with you, brother.
Yeah. God bless
Yeah.
you
Thanks,
and your
guys.
family, man.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Listen, in closing, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate this industry. I appreciate the things we're able to do in this industry. Sometimes we slip. Sometimes, we do things we shouldn't do, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So don't look this way, look this way. And we can't change yesterday, but today and tomorrow's all up to us. So everybody in this industry, I appreciate more than they know.
Can't say any
Appreciate the
better than
wise
that.
words and the wisdom, and God bless you in your journey, brother.
God bless, guys.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Peace.
Thank you.
Our next sponsor is from our friends over at Ganja Containers. Why is everyone switching to Ganja Containers? Simple. Child resistant certified packaging at direct import prices. Plus, real customer service from people who understand your business. Your packaging costs shouldn't destroy your margins. Ganja Containers delivers certified quality, competitive pricing, and personalized service. That's the Ganja Containers difference. Get at Josh Roberts for all of your Ganja container needs. Josh, we appreciate you.